Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle. You have Dean and Rob with simplybefound.com, and we have Adam joining us today. Adam, tell us about you and what you do with small businesses and kind of just about you in general.
Man, I'm so excited to be here. First off, thanks, Rob and Dean, for having me. This is a lot of fun. This is actually my first time I've been on a podcast where there were two hosts. Just throwing that out there. First time. Got a first today, and I've done a lot of interviews, so I'm pretty pumped about it.
We try not to gang up on you, so we're good.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, my aim here is to split you two up. Like, how do I divide and conquer is going to be my strategy here, huh, Dean?
There you go.
So a little bit about myself. So I'm host of the Mission Matters series of shows. I've been in the podcast space now going on a decade. I've done over 6,000 interviews, and I'll do 1,500 to 2,000 interviews this year. I just started guesting on other people's shows, and man, it's been the most fun. I wish I'd done this years ago. I think we were connected through Podmatch, which I'll give them a plug. If you guys have an affiliate link, then everybody go sign up. It works. It's fun. This is how we are connected today. Definitely go through Rob and Dean's affiliate link if they have one. And what my aim, my goal, and my passion, and the reason why I'm coming on shows and guesting is because I want to encourage other people to start their own shows. I want to encourage other people to share their message, whether it's on a podcast, it could be on Instagram, it could be wherever. But my message is simple. Your message deserves to be heard. You deserve to be found. So be found in your business, be found in growing your business. Podcasting, sharing my message completely changed my life. And so I want others to have that same thing happen to them. And you'd be surprised it can happen as simply by starting a podcast.
Well, and you have no idea when you do a podcast, when you do a video, when you put content out there, you have no idea what's going to take. Yeah. And you have no idea what is going to be that magic sauce that all of a sudden pops up. That's why I probably love video so much. It's because a video can sit dormant for months, and then all of a sudden it just takes off on YouTube or on a social media network, and you have no really reason why.
No, the real reason why Rob likes it is because he can talk and talk and talk and talk. He doesn't type as fast as he talks, so he gets his message out there better through video.
Well, hey, I got told once I didn't know how to type right, so I mean maybe that's the case.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. This is a big debate in the space. So video versus audio. I did my first 3,000 plus episodes were only audio, and we built an audience. And the reason why we did that is because I was terrified of the camera. Like you turn on a camera on me or anything like that, and I couldn't say my name. I'm like, I was like, host of the, hey, what's my name? Like I'd say the wrong name, and I'm not exaggerating. I was terrified. So I had to kind of overcome that. And for me, it took, over 3,000 episodes. For some of the people watching this that are used to being on Zoom and other things like that, now after the pandemic, I feel like most people are pretty okay with being on Zoom or something like that. But we're talking 7 years ago now, when I think about when I would not be on camera, and I was terrified. So if you're out there listening and you're worried or scared, you can go with video. But if you're scared of video still, it's okay. I started with audio only, and if it was my preference, maybe I'd still be doing only audio, because then I didn't have to put on a suit and tie at that moment. I was like, I don't know how I got stuck with that brand, but my videos are normally suit and tie for our shows, and that put me back in the suit.
You're not wearing your red power tie today that I saw on some of your.
No, when I go on other people's shows, I don't have to. That's the point.
There you go.
That's why I would have rather it still been audio, truth be told.
So when you're what is your opinion on the difference for the reach between going audio and going for video? Because I know when we do our podcast, so I started with video for our channel. I did a ton of video. I think we're sitting with over 2,800 videos or something like that. Yeah. Most of them are myself inside there, because getting, I guess this guy, because the camera flips me around. But getting Dean into a video was a horrible thing. Podcast was a way to be able to get Dean into a video, and to kind of go through.
I see my in right here. So you're saying that you don't like working with Dean on video? No, I'm just.
No, Dean doesn't like to be on camera. Because Dean's a walking speaker boy, and if it isn't perfect, I don't want to put it out there.
Oh my God!
But I mean, And Rob just goes for it. He goes, I screwed that one up, but we're still going to post it anyway. I do it. If it isn't perfect, but my story isn't exactly what I want, I do not want to do it. So I'll take 30 takes on something to get a 15-minute video or a 15-second video. It doesn't matter if it isn't exactly what I want. And I think that's the difference between audio and video.
Yeah.
But but Rob is getting me over it, and he's a big fan of Gary Vee. Some of his teachings and stuff like that. Just do it. And he's trying to get me to do that. But my background is engineering, and engineers, if it isn't perfect, you don't put it out there, kind of thing. So that's what screws me all up,
Yeah.
So Adam, how did you get over your fear of video?
I just had to, at some point, it was ridiculous. Like, we had a pretty good sized platform. We had a lot of other things going, and it was just like the market demanded it, we'll say. So I started doing conferences in person. We have a bunch of in-person events. We were recording those anyway. I was already doing interviews in front of pretty decent sized audiences, a couple hundred people. And so it just became kind of ridiculous not to at some point. Like, it was just like, all right, you got to do it. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I just did it, and it was okay after that. Like, after that, it was okay. But it was if I have to say to anybody that's watching how they should get over it, you just got to kind of do it, and it's okay. And I had the world's worst YouTube channel ever to start, and I had like 300 videos I did, and they were terrible. I took them all down now, but so don't worry, you're not gonna find them. But yeah, it was the world's worst YouTube channel. I think I hold the record, and took those videos down, but I just had to do it. And actually, what's funny is I was sitting there with my girlfriend, and I was kind of launching the channel, but because I still own it, but it's Ask Adam Torres, and I just actually put up the first reel on that thing, and it's doing pretty well, a couple thousand views so far. But and this is literally last week, and I showed her some of those old videos, and to watch them, you're like, cringing, like, no, I couldn't even watch I couldn't watch a full minute of one. I couldn't. It hurt.
I mean, there's a lot of videos that we still have up that if I go back to them and look at them, I was like, wow, I've really kind of changed for how we've done it. Our systems have changed, technology's changed, everything that's there. And I always find it interesting to talk to someone who's inside of the podcasting space that started in the actual podcasting, since we started on video first and then opened our podcast system for the Simply Be Found Huddle. And I think it was mid-January, something like that.
That was.
I do want to answer your question too, still about that, because it's relevant, and my opinion might be a little unpopular, but it is educated in the space. So what I look at audio versus video, this is my preference, and I have this conversation with clients all the time. In our agency, we've launched over 200 shows, and just to be clear, I make more money when a client chooses video. So me deterring them from video hurts my bottom line. But what I normally tell them is I just give them the macroeconomic overview of what I see happening, and that would be, or I should say the macro overview of what I see, and that's 150 million plus YouTube channels, only about 4 million podcasts. So if you think about it, like for me, and the strategy that I like is, do I want to be playing in that space with 150 million, or do I want to be playing in that space with 4 million and growing? Because podcasting in general, I claim that we're in about year 2 of podcasting, when year 2 of where YouTube was. When in year 2 of YouTube, give or take, you could only upload like a 10-minute video or something or less, and they didn't have it all figured out. The reason for that, though, is because podcasting, and even though it's been around a long time, the reason I claim it's in year 2 is because the infrastructure that Apple, that Spotify, those billions of dollars that they invested into the platforms, and then also if you you think about dynamic advertising. So for everybody listening that doesn't know what that is, just think about it this way: podcasting came out of radio. So you used to have which radio is a host-read ad. So meaning you can't just sell 100 downloads and then take that ad off and then put another ad on, sell another 100 downloads, even if it's for pennies. You couldn't do that in the past. And so you couldn't really monetize a small show. Now you can. So what that leads me to believe is, just like YouTube in the early days, it's going to start to catch on. And because it's easier than YouTube and it's easier to do. And when you start thinking about things like your dumb phones. So I'm not talking. So when I say dumb phones, that is an actual term for those that haven't heard it. So think smartphones are like our iPhones and things like that. Dumb phones are what the rest of the world uses. That's not maybe in our exact networks. And there's 100 million of those things. So what happens is the distribution is going to continue to grow. One day, whether it's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, there's going to be over 100 million podcasts for sure. And so do I want to be, so if I already know that, I'm doubling down on audio. And then I'm not saying you can't do video, but I'm just saying if I had to choose, I'm going to do reels, because that's the only thing you're going to get a little bit of organic reach on if you're lucky. And I'm going to do a piece of the content, but the full content, I want people to go listen to the audio. I want those downloads on Apple. I want those downloads on Spotify. And that's, and for everybody listening, am I doing that myself? At this point, we're a bigger company, so we have to do everything. Like we just have to, like it's expected. But if I had my choice, I would still be placing all my chips on audio and using short clips and reels and things like that to drive traffic for subscribers to my audio. That's what I would be doing.
So define reels, because in our world of marketing, we use a lot of terms over on different platforms and things.
Yeah.
Define were you talking about reels, and are you talking about on social media? Are you talking on YouTube or everything?
So so reels would be the 1 minute or less clips that you would be putting on, and they're on YouTube. Technically, they're called shorts. It'd be that 1 minute or less clip that you put on YouTube. For Instagram, it's called reels. For TikTok, I believe it's called reels too. But basically what it means is that 1 minute or less video clip. And the reason why those are important is because that's the only thing that they're going to give you organic reach on for the most part. Like that's the thing that has the opportunity to for any type of virality or like going viral. Like that's the only thing that's what's going to be pushed out, like just period. And currently, and algorithms change, so put some comments in here and be like, Adam, you're wrong. They used to do it, they didn't. I know I'm wrong. It's okay. Just don't hit up my Instagram. Send it to Rob and Dean and complain to them.
We don't want to do that. No.
Well, I think it all depends on what your goal is from the podcast or from your videos inside of there. So YouTube, they now let you do up to 3 minutes inside of a video. I'm testing currently to see if it's better to pull the shorts. Like we'll pull a short off the video that we're recording right now. This audio will go out to all the different, we use RSS.com that then sends it out to all the networks. But we'll use OPS Clip, and we'll use a couple other pieces of software to be able to make the shorts off of this video. But then there's also the option inside of actual YouTube that you can go in and record a 3-minute video using the YouTube app. And that ends up being organic, and that's still considered a short inside of there. There's a lot of people that watch a lot of shorts that end up getting conversions on that. But if you are looking at being able to talk about a topic, so if you are, say, a contractor or a business and you're talking about a problem you solved, you're not necessarily looking to go viral with that information, but you're looking to be able to educate the target market. So it doesn't matter on how many views you're going to get on it. It matters on being able to educate the people that are seeing that video and that you're directing to that video. So I think it all depends on what your approach is and what your goal is from each of your channels as well.
Totally agree. Yeah, YouTube's great for education. Love it.
It is a great. I mean, right now it's bouncing between the number 1 and number 2 search engine out there.
Yeah.
Apple is going to be, from what I heard, and this is just talk on the street. So there's no actual evidence to back up what I'm going to say, but they're talking about making, from what I'm hearing, is they're going to start putting some of their podcasts inside of their Apple Maps to where those two will connect. So when we look at things, and what I love about that is we look at everything as the trees. Adam, I don't know if you've looked at any of our tree concepts. So you have the organic matter at the bottom for all your local listings, everything in there. You have your website as your tree trunk, and then you have branches that come out. Well, part of that is going to be inside of like your Apple Maps, your Siri, and all that. If that podcast is connected into that, it's going to cause that connection in there inside of the marketing world. So that means all the data that you're talking about on your podcast is actually going to be picked up inside of Apple Maps as learning pieces. Now, I think this is either Apple probably either has a relationship, like we already know that they released it out to work with Siri, to work with Chat GPT. So they might take that to the next level of Chat GPT is going to use the podcast information for its learning database. I don't know. There's a lot of different pieces I look at from an SEO side.
Yeah, we haven't really
how
deep
that stuff's
dived into
connected.
this, Rob. Are they going? So the transcript is they're going to be able to just take the audio and take the information off that without putting it into a transcript.
It automatically goes into a transcript.
We haven't conversation without Adam. Sorry.
No, this is great. Continue.
I think it's a VTF file, if I'm thinking about that right, for the transcript file for inside of Apple, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that one. That feels wrong to me. So, but it would be able to pull that information automatically, Dean, and then it would actually be part of your local SEO strategy.
Okay, perfect.
Which I mean, everything is starting to learn and starting to go through and do that. So as AI gets into this mix, I think being everywhere is a great place to do.
Totally.
So I mean, my opinion is kind of a little bit different. I would say be everywhere and make it all connect and make it all drive to each other, because that way you're not missing out on those opportunities.
I agree with you, by the way. So it's not different. The only difference there was that my answer is related to if you want to grow a show.
Right.
That's different. If you want to grow up from a media brand and you want to grow a show, where you want to be most competitive, sometimes being everywhere, having a small YouTube channel or having some other things can actually hurt your media brand or hurt your brand. But if you're talking like if that's not your ultimate goal, and if your goal is some other things, I everything you said, I agree with. Totally.
What types of shows do you manage and do stuff for?
We've launched over 200. So what happened, and by the way, that story is kind of wild. So during the pandemic, we started in book publishing, and then we added the podcast, we added the media side, and we published over 400 authors. We published now going on 2 years ago, Barry Sanders' autobiography. So Bye Bye Barry, that series, the Amazon Prime series was on, and we published a bunch of authors, and so that kind of morphed into the media side of things. And then during the pandemic, so I used to do a lot of events, go to conferences, do a lot of that's great revenue for us in the company, is the speaker fees, things like that. So when everything shut down, people were at home and they started asking, like, when they'd come on my show, they'd say, hey, I've been thinking about doing a podcast. What do you think about? And I was like, can you help me? And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, I can't help you. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, we got some staff that have some bench time, right? Maybe I can help you. So we took on our first client, and then it grew from there. Launched over 200 shows. Name the niche, doesn't matter. We've launched them, and I would argue our agency is one of the most experienced podcasting teams really on the planet. There's not too many that have launched that many shows in that exact time span. So yeah, that's the story behind
awesome.
that. We weren't even going to be in that business. I was like, what? And now it's turned out to be, honestly, like if you go to our website, missionmatters.com, and you check it out, it's turned out to be, for me, one of the coolest things we've ever done and probably ever will do, because it kind of morphed from, I guess you'd say, looking at like me and looking inward and saying, what can we do for ourselves as a company to grow our brand, to then kind of it changed to service. Then when you're helping other people grow their brand, and when you're helping other people launch their show, your reach, and I just think your karma, like the energy you're putting out in the world, it's just amazing. Like, that just changed my concept for even what this business was like in media, like to help others have their dreams realized.
That's awesome.
There's so many businesses out there, and it sounds like you encompass a lot of things. What are some of the goals of starting the podcast? I mean, everybody has a different objective. Why we created this to try to get information out there for businesses to hear and be aware of certain things. What are some of the advantages? What are you guys trying to accomplish?
Yeah,
with some of the goals of some of the business you've taken on?
So I'd say the number one thing would be there's basically around 3 of them. Maybe there's some more, but the 3 big buckets I'd say is people that want to grow their business. So that's the first thing. So it could be for lead gen, it could be for networking, it could be for a lot of different things there. I'll give you a quick example. We're working with a company called Van Cap Management in Orange County, and they do they do heavy equipment financing. And so like multi-million dollar, pieces of equipment, that kind of thing. And that space is kind of untapped for a lot of different things, especially media. So now what'll happen is they'll do interviews and they'll interview leaders and other CEOs in that industry that they potentially want to do some business with. And it's not a fast, hard sales type thing, but what it is you're building relationships. It's the law of reciprocation. It's, for those that don't know what that means you lead with value and you do something for somebody else, and sometimes you don't even have to ask for the business. They're poking around your website and they're like, oh, you do this, we've been looking for this. Sometimes you get real lucky like that, and that's how a lot of our business grew, by the way. It was just people that came on our show. The example I just gave you, all those shows we launched, that was it. I was interviewing people and they're like, can you help me? And I said, yes. So the first thing I'd say is there's a bunch of different funnels you can use, create, and that we build to grow your business through doing a podcast. The second thing I'd say would be branding. So when you think about what you were talking about, Rob, about like Google search and other things like that, I'm not going to claim that I'm that in depth, and my team knows this stuff, but I'll give you the high level of what I can speak to. And that's this. You go on Google right now. Anybody watching this, go on Google, type in Adam Torres podcast, type in Ask Adam Torres, type in Mission Matters Adam, type in any of that. You're going to see a lot of things. I can be found. You can see what I do. You're going to see my Instagram pop up, Ask Adam Torres. You're going to see every piece of our entire web of what we've built for my presence pop up. Now, okay, you may say, if you're watching this, oh, but I'm not in the media, like that doesn't matter to me. I'll give you one example. A medical professional. She was in the value-based care segment. She wanted to, her name's Ronnie, by the way, this is all public, and she has a podcast. Obviously, we want you to go check it out. Google this. Ronnie is her name, Rani. She started with us some years ago, and the concept was simple. She was going to interview other individuals within that healthcare space that wanted to learn about value-based care and that were working in that, so that she could educate the population on that. Now, this woman she started at a certain level of executive, and over the last couple of years that we've been working with her, I mean, she's held some really, really big positions, including CEO of another company. And when we talk to her, we say, because now at this point it's years and we've become friends, I would say. And we talked to her and like, did it make a difference? And I can say this: when you Google value-based care and when you look it up, and she comes up, and hospitals, literally, there's a couple hospitals out there that do so. And her branding, marketing, everything kills the hospitals podcast because they don't know what they're doing. So theirs looks terrible. It looks like who knows who created that podcast cover. Whereas so hers, she's literally, her brand and her content is better than a hospital or hospitals. There's a couple of them that have it that are arguably, I don't know, that they're got to be in the hundreds of millions of revenue. And she's doing that as an executive herself. So some of those interviews she was in, some of those other things that she did as she was rising up and going further and further, and even to the point of leading, like I said, as CEO of a startup or two in the years, that a big piece of that was her personal branding. So that's the second one, is personal branding. Like, you can really put yourself out there as a thought leader, but not because you're just branding yourself as one, because you can't fake it on a podcast. You got to have the conversations. You're having the conversations, so you can't fake it. So we can't make somebody into something they're not. But if you are who you say you are, but you just need some help in packaging that and getting the word out so that other people who just have better marketing than you aren't doing better than you. Like, it doesn't matter. Not the best person always gets the job. Sometimes the person with better marketing, or that can be found, like you said, Rob, because they're doing their SEO and they got they went to simplybefound.com. I'll throw in a plug right there. It's okay. But that's the second one, and then I'll wrap it up with the third one. Third one is legacy. And I'll tell you, like, legacy is it's really taken on a new thing for me in the last year. So unfortunately, I lost my mom last October
I'm sorry
to
for your
one of the
loss.
thank you, I appreciate that, to one of the tornadoes in Florida. And it's crazy, like freak accident. There weren't supposed to be tornadoes. 6 people passed, 2 of them were her and her boyfriend. It was insane. Like, it was very traumatic and random, and one of those things. And mind, I've done thousands of interviews, I've launched hundreds of shows. And what's crazy to me is, for me, like when we talk about legacy, like those interviews I did with her, I got 3 interviews. That's what I cherish most. Like, those interviews are like going to go see it. Like, and then I think about it and I'm like, I'm like, man, I wish I had interviews with grandpa when he was around. Like, he lived to be mid 90s. And I look at other people and then I think about that. So there's some individuals that we work with that, they're nearing retirement, they're retired, they're past the point of earning, they might be C-suite, and they want to leave. Think of like we don't work with him when I say this name, but it's just a name a lot of people know, and so they may connect with this. I wish we worked with them, but think about like a Ray Dalio, like when he started creating that whole principles platform, and in that, what did he do that for? He did that for his grandkids. And he hoped that other people could benefit from it too. He didn't want his teachings or his learnings to go away when he was gone, because he felt that it would benefit humanity. Like, he doesn't need to write books. He doesn't need to create a YouTube channel or content. He doesn't need to do anything, right? It's Ray Dalio. So there's a segment that are about legacy and that just want to make sure that, they're still contributing, whether they're retired, going into retirement, or whether it's for their kids, or whether it's for but they want to make sure that their legacy is intact, and whatever that looks like for them. Because what I know for a fact is, if you don't write your own history, somebody else is going to write it for you. That's it. So if you spent your entire career, you haven't created any content, you haven't done anything else, and whatever, you might just be the handing over the trust fund to your kids, and that's it, and then call it a wrap. And then whatever they say about mom or dad or grandpa, that was it. You don't get any say in it if you don't do anything about it. So if you want a little bit of say in your legacy, start a podcast and interview your buddies, like interview all your other CEO friends or friends, and have some fun on it, like we're doing today. So legacy is the other big one that not everybody thinks about, but got to write your own history.
Oh, I like that.
So when it comes to, I love all that. So when it comes to your thumbnails and your all your imaging for doing your podcast, in your opinion, what is lacking out there, and what are the best tips you'd provide inside of that?
YouTube thumbnails specifically, or which?
I'd say podcast thumbnails or YouTube thumbnails. So you can go either way on that.
Well, let's start with podcast thumbnails. The first thing that people mess up with in the design, and this is a big one, is that they're designing for what they're seeing on a computer. But the problem with that is most podcasts are going to be on the phone. So when somebody's scrolling through and watching it, I'm literally designing a podcast right now for a show. It starts with you, and when we're going through the design, we're looking at it, and it's and the person on the cover, the way we position them, they have to be big enough so you can see them on a little 1-inch. On her name, the show host, her name is Anna. You have to be able to see her on the podcast cover design on a 1-inch design on your phone. So she has to. So we're going with the top of her body, and and we're going with a certain look for her, so that it grabs attention when you're scrolling through other shows. What most designers do, or what most people do, and they don't realize it necessarily, is they're designing it on a computer. It looks great, looks amazing, but you got to design it for a 1-inch space on your phone, or it might even be a little bit less than 1 inch, because nobody's going to see it. Like, it's going to look like a little scraggly. If we were to use her full body, for example, it would look like some little stick figure or something on your phone. Like she wouldn't be too happy. Less people are going to click on it. If you blow it up and you design it for a nice and clean, not too much on the design side, because you want the name to pop out and you want the person's face to pop out, or if it's an image or something else, you want that to pop out, whatever the design element you want. But I'd say number one thing is, remember, you're designing for a 1-inch square on a phone, not on the computer or anything else as of this point, because most downloads come from the phone.
Right.
No, that makes sense. Now, do you think every episode needs a different graphic or one graphic for just that whole entire podcast?
I go with faces. I think people like faces. Like, so when we're talking about the graphics for the individuals, I like faces. I think people get interested in them, and they get it kind of resonates like that. So we go with simple faces intentionally on the podcast specifically. On the on YouTube, there's a number of different designs for thumbnails, and that's like, I mean, that's complex. That one's way beyond me, and that takes a lot of testing, and that takes a lot of, I don't even think I'll do 30 to 50 interviews this week. So we don't test that many on those. We ain't got time for that, man. I think what we just recently we're good for a rebrand, but actually related to YouTube, we're good for a good rebrand maybe once a year on thumbnails and on stuff once a year, maybe once every other year. But I think we're on a cadence of about once a year because we want the product to look, we'd prefer for it to look consistent across the board. Yeah.
Now, on your podcasting, do you change the graphics for every episode and have a new graphic, or do you keep it consistent in the same graphic for all of them?
All different. They have to be, because we're adding different guests. So the guest has to be in the right place, and so the guest photos added to every thumbnail for sure. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then my other question for you. So you had the book publishing company.
Yep. Still have. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you still have the book. Sorry, you still have the book.
It's all within Mission Matters, and pretty wild. If anybody goes to my Instagram, ask Adam Torres. We just released the 11th edition of our anthology series that we've been doing. Over 400 authors in that series, and it's kind of wild because I like to call them one of our founding authors. That would be authors that signed on to publish with us before we had a website or a company. One of our founding authors. His name's Scott Chaplin, and we just released our 11th edition, and he was actually in the first edition. So he's one of those that took. So it's really a community when you think about the way that we're doing. Even Mission Matters as a whole, and that's just a testament to it. Go ahead, please. I just wanted to say, still have.
Well, I appreciate you correcting me on that one. So how many books get written from podcasting? Not about podcasting, but to where they take the content from their podcasts and turn it into a book.
I'm a fan of that. I'm a big fan.
Are you seeing that a lot? Is it getting more, or is it getting less?
Well, I've seen it done. I've seen people do it. I think in the beginning when it came out, it was kind of gimmicky. Like, so basically it was like everybody figured out you could do transcription in a podcast, and it's like, well, just put a bunch of episodes together, transcribe, and we got us a book. Well, the question is anybody going to read it? Like, that's the thing. So like, you really got to think about like what kind of, like, the quantity and the quality of the content you're putting out. So I think the people that in that space that do that well, they're doing it with maybe their top episodes. Like if they had some episodes or some real hitters that came on the show, and also community builders. So when I say hitters, I mean there's got to be a strategic reason on why you're putting this together. So for example, let's say that you two are going, Rob and Dean are going to create a book out of this, and let's say you ring me up and you're like, Adam, I'm gonna do this anthology, man. I want to use your episode. We're gonna do some of that, like, and I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm in, and I'm gonna help you promote. Like, you got to have people that are actually in. If you're just putting random people in a book that aren't going to promote or aren't going to be part of the project, then you're wasting your time. Because the bottom line is, the reason why our anthology series is so successful and we've got bestseller after bestseller is because we build a community around that book. And so people get to know each other. And they also understand that, and a little bit about our motto, and it's not a secret, but even though none of this is really public, but on our website, it's not something you can really just sign up for. It's a real curated process. But one of our secrets for anybody else that would like to try this, I'm happy to share, is we give the books to the authors at wholesale. So they're basically getting it for at cost. So what happens is they're leveraging our infrastructure to get the book done. And at the end of the day, we're printing tens of thousands of books because the authors are using them for lead gen. They're putting them in their own marketing funnels. They're They're handing them out to all their friends. So what happens is when you educate an author base into that power of what that means, then they realize if they hand out one book to their friend, they didn't just hand out their business card, they handed out their business card. And let's say there's 20 people in the book, 19 of their newfound friends' business cards as well. And so the power of that is next level, but it can only be done when it's done authentically and within that community format. You can't force it. If you do it that way, you can print lots of books, and we do it every year.
That's awesome. That's something that Dean and I both have talked about doing, is doing a book. So that's not my cup of tea. I can do marketing all day long, but I can talk and I can go on camera, but writing is not my forte. That's more Dean's side than my side.
So let's, one of the things that, because I know a lot of business owners have good stories, great stories about how they grew their business. But they don't write. What do you think of ghostwriters? I mean, when it comes to books,
I use one. It's a fantasy to think that like you're going to be able to sit down and write. And the days of we're not going to be like going to write our magnum opus and be like, oh yeah, so when I'm I'm done hanging it all up, and now I'm gonna go sit on this secluded island and start. Okay, Machiavelli, yeah, right. Come on, over it, buddy. No, that's not how it works anymore. Like, you don't want to do that. If you wait that long, then by the time your story comes out, nobody's gonna care because you're not in your position of power and you're not relevant anymore. It's okay, right. Like because there's too much content, too many books, too many other things, and I don't mean like you can't like cut through the noise. What I mean by that is, why are you going to wait till your concepts are old? Like, if you have a concept, you have something you want to talk about right now, it doesn't have to be an autobiography. It could be your memoir. And for anybody listening that wants to really briefly, the difference is autobiography is kind of like at the end of your life. Let somebody else write that one for you, like after you're ready to go. But your memoir can be for a specific time period in your life. So you could have a memoir based on your podcast journey alone. That could be a memoir, like that specific time period, and that could be a central focus. It's you picking a moment and point in time. Or in your case, Dean, I feel like you are the type of guy that has some acronyms in his system that he has to get out, or like some teachings. You said you're an engineer, so I feel like you got some acronyms that you have some IP, some TMs next to some words that you
my joke is I have this degree, EIEIO.
That's why I said you got some TMs next to some acronyms and some ideologies in your system that you got to get out. So just put them on paper, man. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, my runway is getting shorter, and so I'd like to get my ideas out there while they're still relevant. But like in our industry right now, Rob and I, Rob gets. I don't really do the interviews like what you're doing. Rob usually handles that. Is they'll go, oh, well, we're going to do an interview, but we're not going to put it out for 4 months. Well, in the world we're in right now, with the digital marketing and all the local SEO stuff, in 4 months it may be obsolete already. Yeah. I mean, the technology is changing so fast. So
my good example of that, and why we started the podcast, Dean, was the fact that I was doing a podcast. It was supposed to be all about AI and everything of how to use Chat GPT. And the guy goes, well, it's going to take 8 months for us to get this edited and out. And I said, everything I just said, I don't think is going to even be a thing in 8 months.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, we're moving so fast with technology right now in the AI world. And since I published that still has not came out. I did that interview in November, and I can tell you that version of Chat GPT and everything we covered does not exist today. I mean, I guess you can do the legacy one, but if you do it, you're not going to get the results you're looking for.
Quick little tip quick little tip on that one. That's what, not that you asked, but like, so when I'm working, and this is for people listening more so, you two are pros, so I'm not too worried about you two. But for anybody listening, this is you want to. So one of the tips, and this is a little bit part of the media training side of what we do, is that especially when you're in that scenario, just period, if you always make sure to get your story in, the host isn't always going to ask, and if you tie it back to the early days of something else that you did at another point in time. So let's say you tie that back to the early days of when you started in SEO. now you add an element of evergreenness to it. And so when people watch it in 10 years, it's still going to be relevant. So whenever I conduct an interview, I'm going to always, when I do an interview as a host, I'm going to try to pull out evergreen content so it doesn't become stale and people don't get bored. But when I'm being interviewed, I'm going to also tie back evergreen content so that when somebody's listening to it in 10 years, it's still a relevant interview and they're still going to get, especially for highly technical ones like what you're saying, because that's it's only going to go faster. It's literally, and I'll throw that out there. I'll be like, by the way, I just said this, but probably tomorrow it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I did that already.
I make sure I do that to that point.
I did that on this episode. Remember, if we go back a bit, I said something like, and if I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong. Put it in the comments, whatever. Like I did that on this episode. So I kind of excuse myself for misinformation and fake news in advance.
Well, if you notice, I did the same thing of this is what I hear on the street. There's no evidence on this.
I love that.
This is what I see. Now, I don't want to say that's a prediction because it's just what I'm hearing on the street.
I'm borrowing that one from you. This is what I heard. A little birdie told me this one, Dean. I don't know. Little birdie told me Dean has a book coming out the end of 2025. I don't know who said it.
Yeah, there we go.
Dean, my first book. I want to give you a quick tip, Dean. My first book. Because you said you don't like writing, that's not your favorite thing. My first book, I spoke it. So I wrote down a bunch of topics. I was traveling and I just spoke it. And then, and I was able to like talk on each topic. And then I sent it to an editor and then I refined some things, went back and forth. And that's how my first book went out. I didn't physically write a single word and it was all my own voice because I spoke it. So I used one of those, this is back in the day. So it was a Dragon recorder. Now everything does it. But back in the day, for all the youngins listening,
I remember Dragon recorder.
Back in the day, you used to have an app just to record. You weren't being recorded constantly. It was you had to buy an app to do it. So that's how my first one was done, Dean. Great way to get all the concepts out.
Yeah, so I still have my little dictaphone. Come on now.
Man, you better get out of here with the dictaphone. Come on, is that I can't even.
So Dean loves to write. He can write really well. I'm the one that I'll upload a video all day.
I misheard it then. I misheard.
I said Rob's usually the talker, but I got you. I write quite eloquently, actually. But my problem is I can't put my thoughts together in a way that's going to be interesting for other people. I mean, because I'm so OCD or whatever, or ADD, or what's all the letters.
Oh, I'm ADHD. I mean,
write down 20 topics, and write a little chapter on each one. 20 topics. That's it.
No, I hear you, but I'm gonna have to get in contact with you about Ghostwriters. I think you got it. But there's a lot of talented people out there that write well.
That's true.
They don't have experiences to write about.
Exactly.
So that makes them really good writers for that reason, or editors, if you will.
There's a lot of different personalities that all kind of come in. And I mean, everybody's going to have an AI assistant coming up to where they're using AI to be able to get over writer's block instead of that industry. I don't think you should write a whole book using AI, but I think it would be total shit and wouldn't get read. But you could do it, I guess, but it would be shit. But I mean, it's one of those things to where you still have to have an editor go through it. It's kind of like your blogs. You still have to have someone come through and bring that human touch into it and bring the empathy and different sentence structures and different pieces to it, which are very, very much inside of there. But everybody's going to have that assistant that's inside of there. And I think writers have probably one of the best ones out there, just like graphic design and marketing and all that stuff. But when it comes to everything you do, Adam, what is your favorite thing that you do between the podcasting, between the book writing, between everything your agency does?
Oh, it's doing interviews, man. It's so much fun. It's fun to I wake up every day. I'm doing interviews. I talk to, a common morning for me can be like, I wake up, I do my first interview, 7 a.m. The person might be in New York. They might be in London. They might be in, Brazil. They might be in Saudi Arabia. They might be in every day I get to talk to people all around the world and I get to help them share their messages and hopefully that inspires my audience to do the same, not just in creating their own shows and sharing their message, but also the learning, man. It's insane. I talked to some brilliant, brilliant people, and I get to learn all day long. As a kid, I was a big, big, big avid reader, and my goal in life was always, as a reader, to get further and further to the primary source. And the way I look at it is, now the primary source is the person that's running the company right now, the person that's doing the innovation, the person that's doing the inventing. So can't get any more to the primary source than the person that's doing the work. So that's the blessing, is that I get to take my curiosity for that, bring it to our audience, and let them benefit from it as well. So it's just an ultimate win-win, or a word that I learned the other day, an omni-win situation. And I learned that on the podcast, talking to somebody. He said omni-win. I'm like, what the heck is an omni-win? He explained it. I said, I'm going to use that. I hope you're right, because if not, I'm spreading more fake news. And you're the first. And Robin Dean, your show's the first one I'm spreading it on.
Omni-win. What's the definition of that?
Man, I just learned it. What are you talking about? I did have him come up with the definition, because I don't know if the guy made it up or not. And it was basically, it's where all parties involved win. All parties involved win.
That's awesome. So, Adam, I know you have a hard stop and everything today. So, if someone wants to go find you, where would they find you at?
Easiest way, just go to my Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. There's a link tree. There's a link on there that'll take you to everything. Our website, bunch of free content, free ebooks. There's other books. There's you name it, our newsletter, podcast. Just go to my Instagram, Ask Adam Torres, and shoot me a message and tell me that you saw me on this show, and I love to chat. Love to see what everybody's working on too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Dean, did you have anything else?
No, if I do, then we'll start down another rabbit hole, and we will.
That's why I was kind of starting to wrap it up, because then we can go down a rabbit hole, and we'll make you late to your next interview.
That's one of my favorite terms. Let's take this down a different rabbit hole and see where that comes out. So anyway, it's been a pleasure visiting with you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam.